Conversation Nation. Today we have Dr. Justine Pierre. He's the Director of Research and Business Development for Pierre Barnett and Company Canada Limited. So I want to talk to him today because he's an expert in labor marketing, migration, and human trafficking in the Caribbean area. So welcome, Dr. Justin.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you very much for having me on your show, and
Yeah,
Dr. Williamson.
well, it's just a really rare treat because what you have done is really groundbreaking. I mean, this has not been done before. I have not heard of it being done before, but you actually did a large research study around the Caribbean region and contacted over 600 traffickers. And so I really want to talk about that today. But before we even dig into it, tell us about when your company started and how you got started and how you got into this type of work.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I am the Director of Research and Business Development at a Canadian firm by the name of Pierre Barnett and Company Canada Limited. And we basically are a firm. We do a lot of research, but we specialize in something called uh, um, qualification assessment. We help countries get everything with regard to skills in terms of the qualifications, TVET, vocational education, certified. So we are a firm, we are specialized on that, but in another part of our firm we deal with a lot of research, which is called labor market data, collecting data, the manipulation of data. And we our firm is lucky, or fortunately, we have one of the largest labor market database within the Caribbean region. So, for example, we have about maybe all of the telephone directories in our database. So all the telephone directories, the white pages, the yellow pages, all the types of firms, who they are. So we sort of track qualifications, professions, about 1,200 different professions within the Caribbean region. So
Oh, wow.
who are the professions? Who are they? Where they're going? Where they travel to? We have all that data. So we provide a lot of data, and a lot of some of the international agencies kind of need those sort of data. So we are in close contact with many of these organizations.
So you provide different countries with migration information from people in the Caribbean, people moving from the Caribbean around the world, and I guess a lot of governments and agencies would need access to that type of information, right, for planning and the work that they may be doing.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And then how did you get into then understanding human trafficking and doing that type of work for like the European Union and the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime? How did you get to do that work for them, which is identifying human trafficking and understanding human trafficking in the Caribbean
Okay.
world?
Well, very good. We, as I said, in research, we specialize in what is in migration, labor market research. So the migration. So we specialize in what is called the geography of people, why people move. So we did one of in 2016, we did one of the very large study for the government of the Turks and Caicos. So we looked at migration and skills within the Turks and Caicos Islands. So we looked at about there were at the time in the Turks and Caicos there were persons from about 97 different nationalities who worked and lived in the Turks and Caicos. But one of the when we were on the ground, we realized that there was a problem challenge with the Haitian refugees, the Haitians going from Haiti on a sloop into the Turks and Caicos. So we had the opportunity to interview persons within Haiti, and find out why, to understand how they travel from one place to the other. And we realized that in addition to these migrants, economic migrants moving from Haiti to the Turks and Caicos, a lot of them were either smuggled and from Haiti into the Turks and Caicos. So we did a lot of study on that, And then in 2017, we did a very large study with the World Health Organization and the Pan American Health Organization on the migration of health workers within the Caribbean region. So we looked at health workers within the 32 countries within this region. So with that information, we were able to go into every country and build a strong database on who is moving, who is not moving, who is leaving, etc. And we got in contact with a lot of the persons within that business. And in 2019, we were fortunate to conduct one of the largest human trafficking study ever conducted in the Caribbean region. It was a project which was sponsored by the European Union and was managed by CARICOM, or in that case, CARIFORUM, which include the Dominican Republic, Haiti, and all the countries within the Caribbean region, including Trinidad, Suriname, and Guyana. So with that information, we were able to sort of unearth a lot of information. We went to found out some of the root causes. We went to persons within the red light district. We interviewed traffickers, victims, the whole gambit, and there we found that there were a lot of human trafficking is really an industry. It's a business. It is something that is entrenched, and hopefully within our discussion we will be able to talk more about it.
Yeah, so I read that there were about 800,000 to 120,000 trafficking victims that are trafficked through the Caribbean region. And so your team has really been able to have boots on the ground to talk to people, to interview traffickers and law enforcement and smugglers and victims and other actors involved. And really, I think what the audience would love to know is, how did you actually do it? Like, on the ground, how did you connect and interview this many traffickers?
Okay, well, yeah, it's because of our history in conducting research, in conducting field research. We developed a methodology. What we found, for example, that the church has the largest cross section of people you can find in any country. So normally when we go into a country, we always try to meet with the church first, persons in the church. So in that case, we went to the church. Told them what we're doing. We wanted to find out if we can speak to persons. When we spoke to them, we found out that we told them what we were doing. We also found out that there were people who were once, you know, prostitutes, for example, or sex workers, and have now been converted to their new way of life. So we interviewed some of those persons. When we interviewed persons, we asked those persons, who do you know of any persons who are still in doing your business? Then we were referred to that person. We interviewed them. We interviewed them. Then we were able to get we started off with about 19 sex workers. So those 19 sex workers provided a lot of data on persons who were, because we started in Trinidad first, for example. So those 19 sex workers were able to provide additional sex workers for us. And then those sex workers were able to provide a lot of the Johns to us. So we interviewed their Johns. Okay, who are your clients? What we did, for example, we incentivize them, and we told them to track everywhere you have been, everywhere you conducted a sexual activity, and then they gave us that. So we had a lot of data. In fact, we had about 278 places where they actually, over 3 month period, where they conducted these activities. Then we contacted their Johns. We told them that we're not the police or we're not law enforcement. All we're doing is the human trafficking. We conducted this research, and what happened that the John were able to get in contact, refer us to the traffickers, the victims, who able to contact us. with the human traffickers, and then we met the traffickers, interviewed them, and what we found out was I mean, um, we we found out something that was very interesting, because in our research, they are just simple people, and what we found that many of them were just regular people, and I think later on.
Well, wait, before we get into that, I want to know, I know that you've talked to me in the past about how you've conducted this type of research, and um, you go in a particular way that is non-judgmental, and I mean that's really how you connect
Yes.
with the people. So can you describe like how you go into these communities?
Yes, yes, very well. Well, when we go into a community, we go in as there we go in with in a specific way, in a specific way of dress. We treat the for example, let's say we intervene a human trafficker. We treat a human trafficker as a legitimate business person,
Mm-hmm.
because from our research, the most human traffickers, even though they are conducting the act of human trafficking, in their mind is the perception they do not believe that they're human traffickers. So the best way to contact them, to you, or to have an audience with them, is to remove the idea of them being a human trafficker.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing,
Yes.
we treat them as a legitimate business person.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, even though yes, they have the girls and we see the evidence of human trafficking is right there, but in their mind they are not human trafficking. So we treat them as a business person. We also treat them as a service provider. We go in a specific way. When we go to them, we bring some sort of trinket to them or some sort of present to them. We address them as sir and yes sir, and no. We take very very detailed notes from them, and we also found out that they are also very willing to provide information, because they they want to tell you their story. Some of them have stories that they're just waiting to tell people other than law enforcement. And we told
Yeah,
them that,
that is so interesting. So let's talk about some of your findings. You actually gave a survey. You contacted 619 people. 342 of these traffickers completed this questionnaire that you gave them, which is you got some amazing data
yes,
from that helps the world understand the mindset of human traffickers. Like you said, one big major finding is they didn't consider themselves as human traffickers. They considered themselves as business
yes,
people conducting their daily
right,
business.
yes,
Um, and your report also talked about sometimes it's a family business. Like, can you
yes,
explain
yeah,
that?
yeah. So what we found, that we contacted, as I said, about 242. Most of them see themselves as businessmen, service provider. They keep very detailed notes, because it's criminality, a business based on criminality. If you defraud them, it's very dangerous. If they defraud their associates, they can it can cost them their life. So they keep very detailed notes of who they transact with. What we found also, that human trafficking tend to be a family business, either the father, the son, the children, or the close associates. So it's a family business. It is the business of human trafficking is learned by informal association with persons who are within that industry. So you learn it on the ground, on the streets. It's similar to like a pimp, like a pimp may learn his trade, similar to human trafficking. What we found out that most people who get into human trafficking business, uh, get it into it for fast money,
Okay.
but they end up staying very a lifetime in it.
Oh, wow. And so, uh, tell us a little bit about some of the traffickers that you've interacted with?